Hey, this is Max. Welcome back to another CSR2 video. I'm here with one of the lock-in options for the Detroit America road trip, and that is the Shelby GT500. Many of the players in the game have this car because it was a milestone. So I wanted to give you a Stage 6 effects review of this car along with a little bit of discovery I've had with this particular car based on just kind of tweaking it and tuning it. Alright, so the GT500, let's start first with Stage 5 only. Here it is set up with Stage 5 only, full fusion. It's tuned to the highest Evo, which generally speaking is the best way to at least get the feel for the car. However, keep in mind that highest Evo isn't always going to play out to be necessarily the best running car or the fastest in live. It's just a starting point for you to start playing with the car to at least know what the theoretical best dyno is. Now I'm playing with the, here we go, went down. So about 2.6 seems to give us the best amount of Evo points. Can tweak this a little bit, see if it goes up or the other way. There we go. And tire, it's set to 0-100. This car tends to want to have a decent amount of grip, and it's a tire spinner, so 10.014 will be our base line as 5, and we're going to work off of that as far as effects of the other Stage 6s. Let's take a run with this car, and I'll show you what the technique is for driving it that was shown with the maxed Ford GT500. It may or may not work exactly the same when you're not fully upgraded, but it seems to make sense the way it's driven with the max car, which is you will let it and then kind of skip right to third and nitrous after the car hooks a little bit in first. And it seems to give you the best way to put power down with the car right away because it does tend to spin tires in first and second. So with that, we should come out with a decent run. 1.453 0 to 60. I kind of screwed up somewhere around here a little bit. This could be better. As you can see, there was a 10.056 run before. It's not quite dyno because that's 10.014. Maybe if I let it spin a little more in first, you can play with it. The car should be able to hit or get very close to dyno with its standard max evo settings, but it does struggle a little bit at outright beating it. So keep that in mind that this is not a natural dyno buster in that sense. It will get to that when it's fully upgraded. We'll get to that and show that when we get there. So here, engine first, going to install that Stage 6 and then moving to the right and see. Now that's a nice jump in Evo points, although that bodes well. I'm not sure how much of an impact it's going to have. First, let's go ahead and tune final drive. It should be able to go to a higher top speed because of the additional power. Engine usually tunes with a slightly lower final drive because of the additional push given by the engine S6 for the car's top speed. 9.682, that's a decent drop. It's not huge, but it's certainly not little either. Let's see if Nitrous tweaks will help us here. No, it can't go too crazy. Little bit. Can get us 1514. That's a 9.681. I'll roll with that. Let's take one more run just to see if I can do closer to dyno or maybe on dyno with the engine at 6. But I'm not going to run every Stage 6. For the most part, I'm going to skip them unless it's a big one or I think it has specific benefit to us. Okay, here we go. Alright, now that one I didn't launch perfect, so it's going to hurt it. And it's a little sensitive in that sense, but it's not terrible. I mean, it'll not run dyno because I didn't launch perfectly and I didn't shift perfectly, but it's not going to totally kill your run. For the purpose of running the event, a few hundreds probably isn't going to kill you, but certainly you want the strong Stage 6s, the ones that would most benefit you both with speed traps, sprints, and time. Okay, so engine turned out to be somewhat decent. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is turbo. Now, turbo is traditionally turbo's kind of lackluster, so I don't anticipate it to be as good as engine. Well, Evo did go up, so it's not completely terrible. Let's see what it gives us as far as performance. Okay, first thing first, readjust for the dyno, see if it tweaks around that dyno point or not. Doesn't look like I'm going to get much out of moving the final drive, and certainly nitrous probably not a whole lot either. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it be at 1429. That is a 9.841. Still a decent drop, but certainly not as strong as engine, but still it's a drop from the 10.0 that we started with. So 9.8, 9.68, not super strong, but not super weak either. So that was turbo. Let's go to intake. Again, with intake and turbo, you're not going to expect huge jumps. Very few cars benefit in a really major way from turbo or intake. Personally, I think turbo should have more impact, but that's not the way the developers like to have it. So let's see here. I mean, in real life, if you were to throw a turbo onto a non-turbo car, or even a turbo upgrade onto a car, it's going to get substantial increase in power. Now, intake, I kind of agree. I mean, intake usually doesn't do much on any car. So it's not, all right, so 1429, and almost what turbo did, very close, but I think intake might have edged out turbo there. So turbo right now is the slowest, but we have a few more to go through before we can really get a feel for what's the worst here. Okay, so these are generally not super strong. Some of these can be strong. Let's see what nitrous will do. Nitrous will have to be tuned, first of all. Obviously a nice jump there, so that's good. Anytime you see a big jump, that's a positive. Now, nitrous should outperform both turbo intake and possibly engine at this point, but of course I have to tune it. Seems to like a little bit more duration for max Evo anyway. Looks like 1549, but let's see if I can get, nope, that actually went down. 1549 it is. 23, 24, 25. Should be right there. Yep, 1549. 9.617. So it edges out engine, at least on the dyno. It may very well outperform itself, meaning it may actually run dyno or lower, but we'll play with that later. Let's go ahead and move on to the next stage 6, because while it's pretty effective, being almost 4/10, that's a decent amount. It shouldn't, or it could be not necessarily the biggest one. So there's always one of these three that could be even better, although that is lower than what that came up with on the Evo in. So we might get surprised here that nitrous actually comes in on the top. But let's take a look at body. Need to retune again. Wait, that actually went down, but probably need to play with this too. Interesting. So, oh, here we go. See if I can get more. A little bit more. Nope. All right. So let's stick with 1484. I guess would be the maximum I'm going to get here. See if I can get it. No, it dropped down. Let's go a little higher. 1484. Ooh, 9.584. Good. So it edges out nitrous, It took me a little bit to tweak it, but it did edge out Nitrous by just a little bit. Okay, so all these stage 6s, and on this car at least, seems relatively evenly spaced out. Certainly, engine, nitrous, and body are all within a tenth of each other, and turbo and intake being the weakest is not unexpected. So this car seems to have its stage 6s spread out relatively well. So the last two will really tell us the story. Now, tire looks like it's going to be pretty miserable. It may still beat intake, but that was not a good sign from the Evo side of things. Let's take a look. It could very well still play out to be good. No, it's sort of in the middle there. I'm going to have to check numbers because that looks like it's going to be, oh, well, it's going up. So I may be able to squeeze it past some of the worst there because that is definitely not good. I mean, 9.831 is right there with turbo intake. So the question is where it falls exactly on the end. So tire is not a very good stage 6 for this car. Right on the bottom there with intake and turbo. So you got 3 good ones, 3 bad ones. Now the final, which is the transmission. Let's see if trans comes out really good or trans comes out kind of meh. Let's dump trans in. Well, that's a big jump. The real tail, ooh, that's not bad. That's not bad. It jumped pretty decent amount in both performance points and Evo, which means can it match or beat the top one, which is body at the moment. If I can get more points out of it, even better, but not positive that's going to happen. Looks like 85 was the best I could have possibly gotten it. I'll tweak this just a hair to see if I can get a 6 out of it. Oh, there it is. 1486. Oh, yes. 9.475. Transmission comes out on top. Transmission outperforms body on this car. Unlike the Copo or the Mustang, this car likes its transmission. 9.475 with just trans, 9.5s with body, 9.6s with engine, nitrous, etc. So your order of the stage 6s play out pretty straightforward here. It looks like transmission, body, and then from there down we're going to look at some of the numbers in review, and I'll put it in the list here in that order by dyno so you know exactly what it is, because I can't remember off the top of my head. Some of these were pretty close. So there you go. Trans, number 1. Now, trans, body, and nitrous being some of the top stage 6s, but although engine might have edged out nitrous. But let's just go ahead and put these 3 in. Body, trans, and nitrous can get you a pretty decent time from the 10-second start at S5 only. Now, for the purpose of the event, you have both speed traps and sprints to worry about. However, as you can see, this car with those stage 6s run very high quarter-mile speed trap, very good sprints, and a very decent time. I think if you had these stage 6s and fusions, you won't have much of a problem with the event. Okay, now we can also get more out of this car. In fact, with these 3 stage 6s, I may be able to push another tenth or two off of it. 8.655. Okay, so it's doing pretty good, and it's still got a little more in it. Looks like 54 is where I got my best numbers. 8.645. Let's run the car and see where it ends up. Because it's both pretty fast and pretty decent on time, so this car certainly seems like it's well-rounded for overall use. However, the main issue still comes back to beating that dyno. Alright, I didn't skip out a second that quick that time. I probably should have. But at least let's see what it runs. Again, I don't think I'm going to run even dyno or under. It's going to be a little bit slower than, yeah, so 8.586 on an 8. Oh, wait a minute, I beat dyno. Haha! Okay, 8.586 on an 8.645 dyno. Not bad. So those 3-stage 6s actually did beat dyno. I'll take it. Every little bit counts. But it's not significant enough to really make this car something that I would fear in live, because it's not a low performance point level. It's not super high evo. It doesn't beat dyno by enough to really make its mediocre matchmaking shine in some way. So it's going to be one of those cars that you're not going to get a whole lot of benefit out of, I think, in live. All right, so we did the 3 best. Let's go ahead and take them off and now do the rest. Now, if it's 5-2, the 2 best against 5, it probably will be a lot closer. Here it's going to be 4 of the worst against 3 of the best, so I don't think the 4 is going to be coming anywhere near the 3 best. Let's recall they each dropped about a tenth plus to 2 tenths. There's 4 of them. So let's say 6 tenths from 10 seconds, 9.3s. Let's take a quick dyno. Wow, 9.1s, not bad. So the little bit of stuff adding up together counts. It gives it a little more than the individual might have counted for. So not too bad. Okay. 9.1, but again, even at 9.175, it is not quite the same as having a mid-8 dyno in the other case. So those 3 and these 4 has a nice gap between them as far as performance. Let's also look at the dyno again. Mile per hour, fortunately, is still decent, but a little bit slower, and doesn't really impact 0 to 60 that much. So for 0 to 100 sprints, you probably won't have a problem. For the quarter mile per hour in the event, I think you may come close to having an issue near the end, but I think it's still good enough. The main concern is going to be whether its time is going to be good enough to get it through the final event's time requirements, especially with the relays. Okay, so that wasn't the best launch or drive, but let's see what I ran. Should be okay, at least. It shouldn't be terrible. 9.158, and that is slightly under dyno, which is good. I'll take that. All right, so now you've seen the stage 6 effects, you've seen the combinations. Let's go ahead and max the car out and talk about it, because this car is going to be one of the fastest championship showdown cars, assuming Natural Motion leaves it in. Usually what I find is with those showdowns, the most recent milestone car would end up being the top dog, but in this case, leaked information from data mining says that this car is usable, and it is, in fact, the top dog on the list. In fact, let's jump out there and take a look just to verify that this car is an option for that showdown, because it's on the map already. Where is it? Right here. Yep. So it looks like I can go in once this starts. As you can see, it's not telling me I need a different car. Therefore, this is going to be usable in this showdown, and it is faster than that new McLaren GT. So no need to build the McLaren GT, just keep building your GT500. However, a Max GT500 would be the way to go. Obviously, you want to run fully maxed to have the best chance at competing in that showdown. If you don't have it, you're going to have some problems. Now, here's the thing. From a dyno standpoint, and I forgot what the dyno is supposed to be on this. I think it's like somewhere around here, like a 5 something. I'll have to look at what but bottom line is it's a 7.693 dyno right now. It could probably do better. I just have to go look up what the optimal world record setup is, but regardless, it'll run a little under that and do like a 7.5 something. I'm not sure if the Purple Star version of this car will do 7.4s. Don't forget, there is a top 10 Purple Star version of this car, which will be even faster. So your Max Gold Star isn't the king of that showdown. It is more like the queen, which is the second best. But being second best is still better than being 4th or 5th best. And there's apparently a pretty decent gap between what this car can do and what the next best set of cars can do. So GT500 is definitely the way to go. Okay, so didn't get into second quick enough, I think, but should still run the 7.6. Zoocar has a video again on optimal settings and drive technique for this. Look that up. I probably don't have the final drive right. Probably could use a little more top speed. I'm not sure. But regardless, you should be able to get 7.5s as far as the runs are concerned. So look into that and see what's the best avenue as far as that's concerned. Now, so knowing that the car barely beats Dyno, you know that this is not exactly the best car for live racing. But I like to try to get everything to work for live racing. I hate it when I'm stuck with a car I like to use because it looks cool and it sucks. So what I can tell you is that you could force the car into a dyno beating condition by removing some things. You're really leveraging two things here. You're leveraging one, reducing substantially the the performance points while trying to maintain as much of the evo points as possible. But you're also trying to find essentially what is a point in the lobbies where the car may come in favorably. Okay, so notice body gives a decent amount of evo points, so you can keep it in, take it out. But anytime you're up this high though in performance points, you're already looking at cars that are running somewhere in the mid 8s to 9s, sometimes even better. So understand that this car does not have any real lobby advantage. What it does have though, if you want to play with it a little bit, is a substantially high top speed that can be leveraged for an attempt to beat that dyno. Now 9.796 isn't the greatest spot to be in. I would probably want it to be a little slower, but let's go ahead and take a shot at this. So if you drive it kind of similar to how it's driven with the tire maxed, you can still get pretty far with this car. You can also run the nitrous slightly later. The point here is that this car without the tire generally beats dyno a little better. Okay, I used nitrous in fourth, but it was still spinning in fourth anyway. If you run it out, you should be able to do somewhere around dyno, if not better. Now later nitrous will get you a sub dyno run, versus earlier nitrous will get you a dyno base run. So this one now I'm going to drive completely differently to try to get it under dyno. So again, the best way to drive it when it has all parts isn't always the best way to drive it in every tune setting. So here we go. Let's go ahead and do a little different. Okay, now I'm using nitrous in fifth. I'm doing essentially a push using nitrous, and that will give you a little bit better run than if you were doing it with the method that's supposed to work. So I just did 9.6 on a 9.8. There is 2/10, and with that 2/10 margin, you now have not really a quote strong live lobby car, but a viable live lobby car. The next step would be, of course, to maybe still tweak the parts to put you in the edge of a lobby bracket, because 9.8 isn't necessarily a great spot to be. You know why? Because you're going to face 9.5 second in SXRs, and they will still outrun you in this lobby, because these cars have elite upgrades as well, so they have really high evo at a much lower performance point, and therefore they probably already lobby better against you than you are able to. Plus they run under dyno, so it kind of screws you. That's basically what it comes down to. Let me see if I can now get somebody to race me. Oh, he looks like he's available. Well, I hope he's a veteran. If he's not, this may be not as good a way to show. Now this is he's betting money. That means he's probably got a dyno beating tune on it, probably down tune a max car. This car is well known for that, so let's take a chance. Can't hurt. Worst case, I lose. All right. Alright, so again, Nitrous is going to be run relatively late. Gonna go ahead and get it started. 2, 3. Oh, and he crashed. Does that mean I win the money, or is this going to be a totally failed race? Let's see. Oh, and I win. And I get the money. And he, oh man, sucks to be him. It looks like he disconnected. It's not much money, so it's not a big deal. Okay. Alright. The good news is I just got a win at a slower run, which is helpful because it keeps my lobby average down. I'm going to go ahead and jump out, jump back in, then race the next guy. Let's see if the lobby changes. That is, again, something I always look for initially. When I run a car, I want to see where I actually fall in the lobby and then try to keep the average low enough that the car still has some advantage. The dyno beating, part of the advantage is just to squeeze out those wins. Not necessarily you really need it, but it's nice to have. Okay, so this lobby, again, you can still see in SXR, but almost nothing else, meaning this is really not necessarily a 9.8 lobby. This could be a 9.6 lobby. I'll find out pretty soon when I run this F1. These guys, depending on how it's tuned, could be dyno as well, but in this speed range, they tend to run right near their dyno. So it's a good gauge for me to see where I'm at. Okay, now push that nitrous for 6th gear. Right, and slow, slow, slow. Whoop. All right. Not too bad. I had quite a bit of margin there to play with, but again, I had to run. Yeah, so it's about right. I mean, my dyno's a 9.8. This is 9.762, 9.641. Remember, this is a low performance point high evo car in this range. It can run 8s with just stage 5, so this car is barely running any stage 5s, I think even. It can run mostly stage 4s and some stage 5, maybe even one part stock to end up in this lobby. So it actually is a pretty good car given that. That also tells me that I am not lobbied all that favorably. Now this car is very hard to beat dyno with, so this is a good challenge. Let's see if this one also runs in the 9.8 range. I think it's probably, remember the lobby itself has a range, 9.8 to about 9.6 and change. So it's not that I'm lobbied that well, or I'm in the best part of the lobby either. But I should still be viable in this lobby. Okay, oh, I need to slow down. Still running a little too fast. This is going to get me possibly bumped if I keep this up. But at least that gives you a better idea where you're at. Okay, so I am in the right lobby because this car usually doesn't beat dyno. So there you go. Again, not the most winnable setup, not the most reliable in the long run, but it's a viable setup, and it at least beats dyno with stock tire, which is something. Okay, so that is the Shelby GT500 Stage 6 effects discussion. Thanks to the Mysterious Stranger account for giving me the opportunity to review the car fully maxed. The next video will be coming up. I'm going to do one on the PC car this season, the Z28. If you've had good luck pulling it this season, that car will be used in the Prestige Cup, and I'll do the Stage 6 effects soon on that. I am also working on a AMC Javelin video, so that will be coming as well. Thank you for joining me. If you liked the video, please leave a like. If you like my channel and would like to get notifications when I put up new videos, please subscribe so you can get those notifications. As always, thank you for watching my videos. I'll catch you next time.